Spartans to mission Debrief. We're playing every mission in the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be recapping Halo 3 ODST on the next episode. This episode, we're debriefing the Coastal Highway mission from Halo 3 ODST. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
We're still waiting to finish the fight, Colin.
We will. Very soon.
The fight's still going on.
Last mission was Data Hive. Rookie followed Dare's distress signal down into the New Mombasa Underground that houses the Superintendent's data center. Along the way, we met a not-so-special friend that happens to work for Police Commissioner Kinsler. After the rookie deals with our corrupt police buddy, we team up with Veronica Dare, who had been planning to extract the superintendent amidst the Covenant invasion this whole time. However, the supercomputer was absorbed by one of those weird floaty aliens that also happens to be an ancient Forerunner tech pet. This mission, Dare, Buck, Rookie, and now Virgil ride into the sunrise aboard a garbage truck in your favorite UNSC vehicle. Unfortunately, the dawn isn't very sunny as the Covenant overrun New Mombasa and begin to uncover the prize that Regret came for in the first place. Date of the game is October 21st, 2552. We are playing as the Rookie still. Now, this mission is long. It's super long compared to the other missions we play. I think Data Hive was kind of long too, but this one, you can't really speedrun this one. It's almost impossible to. There's just a lot going on. There's doors along the way. There's the firefight at the end. So we're gonna kind of compartmentalize this. We're gonna give a couple of different sections. We're gonna talk about this opening cutscene, kind of coming out of the underground. We're just gonna kind of talk through the highway. I'm not gonna walk you through the highway. There's a lot that goes on. So we'll kind of talk about our favorite stuff. The way we approach that section of the mission, and then the defense. The firefight area at the very end. And then we'll obviously, be throwing lore in like we always do. So let's talk about this opening cutscene here. Now, this mission is kind of the heaviest outside of the first mission of this relationship between Buck and Dare. And it just kind of starts it off with that right away. David, you want to take us through this?
Yeah, so straight away, Buck has his helmet off and he's giving out about the smell. And then Dare just runs up to him, punches him, and says, that's for running away?
Abandoning the mission.
That's for abandoning the mission. And he's like, what? How the hell? And then she just lobs the gob and starts mauling the face of him. And then he's like, what was that for? And he's like, that's for coming back. And he's like, and the rookie's just standing there, and then he looks at Virgil, and Virgil looks at him. It's an awkward moment. It's pretty funny.
Krista, have you ever punched a man and then kissed him shortly afterwards?
Does sparring count?
That's a little different, but okay. TMI. Continue.
What's happening when you ask Krista these kind of questions, man? What do you expect? That's what you get. So then there is a brief kind of conversation of where we're going, what we're doing. Okay, we're getting out of the city. So the guys kind of progress. Now, that's kind of end of that cutscene, really, isn't it? Because then you're kind of in the city, and then you're kind of moving along.
Yeah, well, you're underground still, so you actually play, you go to the elevator and then go up the elevator. And there's dialogue along the way. So, it's kind of hard to recap it all. But they're more or less kind of saying, all right, I think at one point Buck says, okay, we've got to get to the highway because that's how we're going to get out of here. And so, so you come out of the elevator. And Dare is protecting Virgil pretty much the entire. She always sticks by him. In the last mission, she did that too. And then in this mission, she kind of says, "Okay, I'm going to stay here while you guys go and kind of clear the area." Even though she's totally a capable soldier, so that's just kind of what she chooses to do because that's her goal, right? Virgil's her goal, so she's going to stick by him.
Yeah, 100%. Because, like we said, she didn't think she was getting a engineer, and now she's got one with a human AI in it as well, or human computer program. So win-win, baby. She's mad for it.
All right, so the big encounter here once you get out of the elevator, you have the Phantom dropping off some Covenant, and then you have that watchtower right in the middle with turrets, and you got a whole bunch of Covenant brutes, jackals, grunts, everybody. It's pretty challenging. I know on a harder difficulty, especially, we always say that. But what's your approach here, Krista, to this opening area? Do you rush in? Do you hang back? What do you do?
So what I did was, if you facing the grunts and the big spire thingy, if you go to your left, there's some open buildings. Mm-hmm. So if you go up a couple flights of stairs, there's a sniper on top of
there is
on top of the building.
Oh,
yeah.
I never knew that.
Get out of town.
There's a sniper up there. So I sat with the sniper and I got rid of all the brutes and then went down and took care of the grunts.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love Halo. That's great.
I know. I actually forgot that was there. I found it a really long time ago, and I just completely was wandering around and found it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice.
That's
good. Well, that seems simple. That makes this area way easier.
Oh yeah, it's way easier. You just sit up there. You're just like, brutes. You're gone.
Yeah.
Well, because underneath that building is my tactic, and that's where there's a rocket launcher. So I run over there and grab a rocket launcher. So I never knew there was a sniper bullet.
I didn't do either of those things. So you rocket launch and just kind of get them in clusters, or hope that
pretty
they get
much.
clusters?
I played through this mission twice actually, because I actually got a chance to play co-op with Oren yesterday.
Nice.
Sorry, on Friday. So it was kind of interesting. We were going for an achievement for the par score. It was actually quite tough. There aren't a lot of skulls in ODST, so you have to turn on some of the harder ones. And we were kind of struggling. We kind of lost out because of our time, which was kind of annoying. But we did have some fun playing, so that was kind of interesting. So I had kind of 2 playthrough experiences, so it was good. Safe to say, there's very little lag. So yay!
That's good.
Fixed. Yeah.
So what I did is I went into the center and grabbed a turret and then jumped down.
Oh, cool.
And then cleared out the area from there. Yeah, I don't know.
Your tactic's a lot more hands-on.
Yeah, I tend to be kind of a brute force my way through these missions. And it took me a couple tries to decide to do that, but I'm playing on heroic, so it's a little bit harder. But yeah, I don't know, that worked out. I tried taking one of the turrets right away and just staying up there, and I just get murdered right away because they all fire just
too many brutes.
There's no cover. Yeah. So yeah, there's just a couple grunts up there, and you just kind of take them out quick, and then grab one of those turrets, and then run around, and then throw some grenades and things like that. So yeah, definitely take your time. I think you have to clear it out, right? I think you do. Otherwise, you need to run around this area to be tough.
I don't think Virgil will go through the area if there's enemies.
Yeah.
He will, unfortunately, and he'll die. So
Really?
that happened with us on Oren. We were playing on heroic with a bunch of skulls on, so the enemies were pretty tough. And Virgil just floated on through and died. And we were like, holy shit. So
he just hung back for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we moved too far forward where he just started moving far in on top as well. I'm not sure. But he totally just walked in and died.
For me, he was annoyingly far behind, where a couple of areas I had to sit and wait for him to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So we go out to the next area. I think it's like a door you got to go through, like an elevator to go through or something like that. And then now we get up to the city level, and you see all the Covenant in orbit. And yeah, it's this next area is it's pretty dire. You're trying to get picked up, but you just see that it feels kind of like Reach, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's very similar, and they even mention Reach as you're going down the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buck kind of says how similar this is to New Alexandria and Reach.
Because he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of the mini missions when you're in the.
Oh right, we talked about that.
Falcon.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's right. And
cool.
was he called out by name too?
Yes.
Yeah.
They say Spartan Buck, or
Not Spartan,
yeah,
ODST.
not yet, but ODST Buck. Yeah.
Nice.
I think it's in the. I don't know if he introduces him as Buck or it's just one of the name tags that's on him.
Mm-hmm.
I forget.
So we recapped Sadie's story, and they talk about an Oliphant and this garbage truck in that story, and now Virgil hotwires the Oliphant, this garbage truck, and Virgil is Virgil I don't know, should I call it? What pronoun should I use?
That's a good idea. I don't know if they have that. I don't think engineers have genders, but you can go with a he.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can give it whatever gender you want.
Okay.
I would say Virgil's a boy's name for the sake of argument.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Sounds good. So he hotwires Oliphant and Dare, and Virgil hop in that bad boy. And now it's our job to escort them down the highway, make sure that they get out of the city is really what we're trying to do here. Now this is a big, long area, big stretched out. You go through lots of doors, and Virgil opens them eventually. If you get close to him, you got to use his kind of shield, which is nice. But yeah, this part is long, so we're just kind of talk through our favorites or just any other key elements through this. There also is some good dialogue, and maybe we'll try to bring that up as we can throughout this spot. And then just lots of Covenant is just like there's scarabs crawling across the city, and dropships coming in, and it's just it's rough.
Skybox is amazing here.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah, very cool. So we start out, and you hop into a Warthog, and I quickly realized that I couldn't just man the turret. Is that right? Like,
yeah.
Buck would only be on the turret. He wouldn't drive for me.
No, he refuses. You have to drive.
That's so dumb. I mean, I guess, but that sucks.
Yeah. No, it's totally up to you. I mean, it sucks as a part, but it's cool. On co-op, what I did with Oren was pretty fun. So I drove and gave Buck a rocket launcher, so he then jumped in the side, and then Oren got on the cannon, and we just wrecked shop. It was really cool.
Oh yeah,
that was good fun. Buck doesn't shoot the rocket launcher half as often as you need him to, because the Oliphant can be destroyed, and we had like catch-on, so enemies were throwing grenades like it was no one's business, so we died a lot.
Yeah,
but it was good fun, and eventually you get a Gauss Hog, which is awesome. So that kind of helped big time, especially when you get into fighting Banshees and stuff like that, and the different waves of enemies. And then eventually you get a tank. So we kind of split up at that point, where I put Buck back into the gunner seat of a Gauss Hog, and then Oren took the tank. So it was kind of handy. It was fun at that point.
Yeah. Do you upgrade Krista along the way? Do you keep kind of going up until you finally get in? I mean, you got to take the tank at the end, right? I mean, why wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, always take the tank. So on this particular playthrough, I drove Buck around until I could get a ghost.
Oh yeah.
And then I completely abandoned Buck, and he was all by himself for the rest of the mission.
So does he drive then?
No, he actually walks, and then he gets teleported at the various moments.
Oh really?
Yeah. He was just completely abandoned. And then once I got the Scorpion tank, he got on the turret of that. But have you guys ever tried the Vidmaster Town Challenge Deja Vu on this particular part?
I have not, but
No.
I want you to tell me about it, Krista.
Okay, so what it is complete coastal highway, 4-player legendary co-op with the Iron Skull on without using Warthogs or Scorpion tanks.
So the Iron Skull means you reset the level, right, when you die?
If you're on co-op, it's just the last checkpoint.
Okay,
so you do have to walk up until you can get a ghost. Is that what you're saying?
No, a mongoose. I think you spawn with if you play 4-player legendary, I think you spawn with mongoose.
Okay.
So me and a couple of friends a couple years ago tried this, and it was pretty aggravating. Not just because it's difficult, but because we gave Buck a rocket launcher and he never fired it.
Yeah, it's tough.
He fired it once, and he killed us with it. We're playing for like 2 hours, and the one time he fires it, he murders us. So that is my best memory on this particular part of the level.
Doesn't sound that great, but it sounds memorable.
It's very memorable. Yeah, it's not a great memory, but it's a memorable one.
So what do you think about the kind of the stopping and opening the gates areas? Are those,
I know
I guess you kind of need to slow it down a little bit, right?
Honestly, it's probably the limitations at the time. They probably had to load the areas that way. They probably couldn't have just one big stretch of highway.
Yeah.
I think it breaks it up a little too much because there are like 6 or 7 of those doors.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah, and it just kind of makes you stop, and then you have to think about your health and stuff like that, and it's much more fun to just... It'd be much more fun if it was just a long span of highway that you could just run through if you wanted to. But this pretty much makes speedrunning impossible because you have to wait for those doors to open.
Right. Because the Oliphant needs to be the one that does that.
Yeah.
You can't just. It's not just a time-based thing. That the actual vehicle needs to be up there to do it.
Yeah, it's a part-time 25 minutes as well. So
Which is long for ODST. Like some of these missions are
Yeah.
8 minutes or something.
I'm guessing you spend 90% of that time on the highway.
Yeah, you do. Well, there's a good bit of time. There's a good bit of time at the end. When
Well,
you
isn't
have,
there
like, the
only 3
firefight
waves
mode.
at the end, though?
There's 3 waves, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
at
if
the-
you're good enough and you can get the...
Yeah, it's how
kill
fast you
everyone
can
fast
cycle
enough.
through those enemies, and when the jetpack brutes come in, they can kind of scatter. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you got to be fast.
Well, you can always just lay a bunch of rockets and stuff when they first spawn out of the ships.
True.
Yeah, I think that's what I did. We'll talk about that once we get there. But, so yeah, it's a hard mission to speedrun. You can't really. I mean, you can get the part-time. That's why they have it there. But you kind of are forced to take your time. And I think they do a good job of ramping up the encounters, like they do in most missions. Whereas you start out with just like some grunts, and then it eventually turns into some jackals, and then eventually get some brutes, and then the vehicles and all that sort of stuff. So that makes it interesting.
They also do a good job at putting interesting set pieces when you're waiting for the doors to open.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think 2 times the scarab walks over, 1 time it actually
Yeah.
hits the garbage truck. Another time you get to see the cruiser pop in, and then it's starting to charge its laser.
Yeah.
And then one of the last ones is the phantoms riding alongside you. So they do a good job at putting interesting things for you to look at.
Yeah,
Because
they're cool.
I think without any of that storytelling in this, it would be a lot more boring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they were trying to. I think what was the name of that VidMaster channel? Deja Vu, because there's a similar VidMaster in Halo 3, and they were trying to give you a similar feeling to the other games, the ends of those games, and we won't talk about them all. Only the ones that we played, I guess, like Halo 1, where you're in the Warthog and you have that big, the scramble to get off the Pillar of Autumn, but. So they were trying to kind of mimic that, but I didn't feel like there was that as much of a sense of urgency. Mainly, maybe part of that was because you eventually end up in a tank, and you can't drive a tank very, very quickly, and there are all of those stopping points. But it didn't feel like a scramble to me. It felt like, okay, like let's just steadily get it. Plus, you're protecting the Oliphant too, so I don't know.
Well, and the thing about those other encounters in the other Halo games is that there's actively, like, stuff being destroyed around you.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
if we were running away from, like, a laser coming up the highway or something like that, that'd be really, really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like if a scarab was chasing you the entire time, something like that.
Yeah, there's just not that sense of urgency,
Mm-hmm.
I think. Because I think all of the doors make it feel a little more like a stroll than a mad dash. Especially the Oliphant's really slow.
Yeah. Are you feeling the same way, David?
Yeah, I don't hate on it as much as you guys kind of sound like you do, but like
I don't hate
didn't-
it, but it's just not my favorite. Like, comparing it to some of the other, like, events in this game, this one's kind of just so-so.
Well, in the other games end strong. The end is stronger. Like this ends, and we'll talk about the very, very end in a little bit. But this being the final mission doesn't feel as epic as the other missions or the other
Like, the
games.
Scarab mission was way more epic than this one.
Mm-hmm. Oh right, yeah, where you're that boss fight scared.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
okay, I liked it.
You can disagree. That's why we're talking.
Yeah, I like the ending of this. I think it's cool. It was a cool, big kind of moment where you're firefighting at the end, and you got like all these waves of enemies just dropping in, and there is a sense because maybe they don't spell it out enough, but like the city's being glassed. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You're going to die if you stay there, and not even just from the wave of enemies coming, but also the glassing taking place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe they could have made a bigger thing of that. I think you're right. Maybe if you were driving to escape, not necessarily a scarab because they're super slow, maybe an actual cruiser. Do you know what I mean? If something is actually glassing the highway behind you, that would be cool. I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like it as it is.
Any
other thoughts on the highway? There's that drone part, which is super annoying because they spread out so much.
Well, also they have this kind of setup that when you get to the end of the door, you're usually low on ammo and low on health.
Mm-hmm.
So opening the door and having a bunch of enemies come out, it's like, oh man.
Yeah. There is a weapon cache right there that I found this time. There's some ARs and a rocket launcher right
there's
nearby.
some
A lot of these have like weapons kind of hidden because there's like a little step of stairs and a little like door and stuff to the left. You can't go in it, but it's just like maintenance looking stuff that you can kind of
health
explore and get stuff.
Yeah. Any other big encounters or interesting? There's like fuel rod cannons part where you kind of drive through one of the doors and immediately get fired at, or if you decide, I think I was trying to go up those watchtowers right away just to kind of see what was up there, but yeah, there are grunts with fuel rods on some of them are empty. Just watchtowers are in general, I think, are always interesting because it means that it's like a specific, the Covenant are like trying to defend or I guess attack in these certain spots. So they're trying to stop you from your goal instead of just.
And I almost immediately blow those up.
Oh, I always blow them up.
Yeah.
Just for funsies.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's also just a fun animation to see. It's those
it
things
is.
blowing up.
Yeah, it's cool. And I do like that if there's any enemies on them, even if you don't hit the enemies and you blow it up, they all die.
Mhm.
I thought I like that was a cool little add-on.
Yeah.
Because one of the things, Buck fired his rocket and hit one of them, and it was pretty great to kind of see it collapse down and all the enemies die on it, even though he didn't hit any of them. So I thought it was kind of cool. I like that. I appreciate it.
Cool. Should we move on to the final area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the final area. By now, you know you've made the trek, waited for the doors, and you hop into the Scorpion. You kind of get the Scorpion just for a little bit at the very end, and then it takes you down this off ramp. And I didn't really know what those were to begin with. Did you guys go explore those? I guess we didn't talk about that. There's those little off ramps that go down below along the way.
There's
I
only
know there
one
are
or
like
two of
warthogs
them.
and stuff in them, right? Sometimes there's like weapons or stuff in the bottom.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to them, to be fair.
Yeah, they're pretty much, because you kind of, they do go off to the side, but you can't go any further. When you get to them, you kind of go back up on the other side. And yeah, I didn't explore them much, so it would make sense for there to be vehicles down there if there are. But the very end, you go in the off-ramp in the Scorpion, and then you hit this barrier, and then you see this building off in the distance, and you and Buck need to go up and clear that. That building is the Uplift Reserve. Did you guys pick up on that?
Oh, it's the
Oh, was
entrance
it?
to it or something, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Which I was struggling with a little bit because the Uplift Reserve should be this big nature area, but you feel like you're right in the middle of the city. If you look up, you're just like these giant skyscrapers are right nearby. So that didn't make a ton of sense for that to be Uplift Reserve there for me, but maybe, as they mapped it out, that's actually where it was. But there are just a couple grunts inside that you get to clear out. And then now we're defending. Now we're doing firefight mode, and now we get waves of Covenant to come to you. Virgil will kind of hang in the back, and you give you a little shield if you want. And then there are weapons. There are weapons in this back room. Shotguns and ARs, I think, mostly.
There's everything. There's a rocket launcher in there. There's a sniper rifle up top. There's grenades all over the place. There's ARs, SMGs, pistols. I think there's a shotgun somewhere that you can pick up. And there's two SMG there. Two turrets set up as well up on top.
Yeah. I was a happy surprise for me to find that turret up there. But yeah, you shouldn't run out of bullets. You shouldn't run out of ammo in this, especially if you're going to end up picking up some Covenant weapons, which I did eventually. How did this? So David, why don't you talk, because it sounds like you're more positive on this mission in general. How did this ending feel? What was your approach to kind of clearing out the waves?
On a solo, I think I gave Buck a rocket launcher again, and then I kind of picked up the sniper, and I like using the turrets, so I used the turrets to clean out a lot of the smaller enemies.
Did you just stay up on the turret? Or did you detach it?
As much as I can, I stay up, and then you have to detach it eventually. When the hunters drop in, or actually when the jackals came in, and they just disperse. It's kind of like, okay. Yeah. You got to drop.
There's a ton of jackals.
There's a ton of jackals. So like I used my sniper then, and I may have picked up a carbine somewhere. Did someone have a carbine? One of the brutes may have had a carbine I picked up. So that was kind of fun. And then when the hunters came in, I just grenaded the crap out of them. And then Buck actually took one of them out with a rocket launcher, so that was pretty cool. I did at some stage, I think one of the games I played even with Oren, I gave Veronica a fuel rod, and then Buck had a rocket launcher. They didn't do a whole lot, but the novelty of it was kind of less cool. That area right in front just became an area of death. Like if any of the enemies actually made up there, those guys had to shoot, and generally did. So that was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But we spent way too much time in this area on the harder difficulty trying to get these enemies down. Because we put one of the skulls on that makes their resistances higher and their weaknesses higher, but that just meant that they were like totally almost immune to a lot of the weapons we were shooting them with.
Yeah.
And it was a hard time, and we gave them like one of them that doubles their health or increases their health, and it was like super tough. So
Oof.
It was a tough game to play, but it is fun. And then you get like a brute chieftain kind of moment who kind of raises at you and stuff. Is interesting.
They're fast. They are fast. Yeah. Don't be nearby when they swing that gravity hammer. Krista, you're probably sniping like usual?
Yeah, so I picked up the pistol and I was going, because like the first couple waves are mostly grunts and jackals on normal, so I was just clearing them out with that and grenades. Then the last wave is just 90% brutes. So I had like pistol shotgun for a little bit, and then I switched to carbine beam rifle and just kind of sat in the room where Virgil was and just kind of sniped him.
Oh, okay. You didn't go up high?
Nah, I didn't go that high. Mostly just to get rid of the jackal snipers and take their stuff.
Yeah.
And I kind of wing this part, especially not on higher difficulties. I just kind of go with it. Mm-hmm. Funnily enough, funnily, yeah. I'm tired. Leave me alone. But the chieftain just sat in that middle like gazebo the entire time and let me just murder him. So that was really nice.
That was very nice of him.
Yeah, it was very nice of him. I'm like, I need to get this done. I got some stuff to do. And he's like, you know what? I got you. And he's like, just kill me. I'm like, oh, so sweet.
Did he pop his invincibility at least?
He did, yeah, he did, and he stared me down for a good 30 seconds, and then I murdered him. So.
Kill me.
But it's definitely, it's kind of anticlimactic on normal. Mm-hmm. Like, you definitely want to play this on heroic or legendary to make it feel like a finale to the game. Because like on normal, it's just like, I'll just throw some grenades, I'll be fine.
I mean, there's a couple waves of enemies, and so you kind of get that moment. You're like, I think this is the end of the game. Like, how many waves am I going to deal with? Would an additional wave or two, or what would have made it more epic for you, I guess, besides kind of that sense of urgency, this final encounter specifically?
I definitely think the enemy, I think it was just the difficulty. It just wasn't difficult. I've played this on heroic, and I've done this legendary solo, and it definitely feels like more of a finale when you're kind of fighting a little more and looking for ammo a little more. So it was just the difficulty on this part that was just like, oh, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. There is the hunter moment too. There's a couple hunters, so
yeah,
I'm thinking maybe a few more instead of just 2 hunters. Maybe they drop to 4 hunters. Maybe another
just a wave
chieftain.
of hunters, just 30 hunters.
Yeah, sure, why not? And they do have those wraiths in the back that show up at the very end.
They don't really do a whole lot unless you sit on the turrets for too long. Mm-hmm. But most of the time they don't hit you. They just shoot the building above you.
It just kind of looks cool to have the big plasma balls coming at you, though.
Yeah. You can't destroy them, can you? I guess I didn't waste too much ammo on them.
They have there's a glass screen in front of them, so you can see them, but you can't shoot through it.
Oh, okay. So you can't throw rockets at them.
They have an invisible wall.
You can they can mortar over it, but you can't shoot over it or anything like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I bet those things are really, really pinpoint precision on like legendary and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like those were a struggle for me on legendary. Figuring out what to do with those. But,
you almost have to stay inside with them.
And then you have the jump back brutes that I think one of you mentioned that they do scatter at some point, and so if you can get them all right away or the majority of them right away, it makes it way easier.
Well, and if you're playing with friends, you kind of know the waves and stuff, so if you guys all post up on certain places and just fire where they're going to land when they come out of the Phantom, you pretty much have the wave done.
Yeah. All right. So, should we talk about the lore implications in cutscene? Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? I mean, it's kind of it.
Yeah, that is kind of it.
Chris and I are a little more down on it than David, but I think because this is the fourth game that we've played, we have had some epic endings to those games. This one just falls a little flat. Not to say that there aren't great moments and great missions in this game. You know, I love ODST. But the way that it wraps up is just a little more ho-hum than I'd hoped.
It just kind of ends.
It's a smaller game with a smaller story.
Yeah.
And they had an objective and they achieved it essentially. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? There was one mission, they completed the mission, and now they're done and they move on. And that's kind of where this game goes.
Yeah. I mean, is ODST? Is it? It's here to tell us a side story, but is it here to give us a perspective or show us some importance of the engineers? Was that the main? Is that
yes.
why they told this story?
I think that's pretty much it. I think that they couldn't, like in Halo 3 or Halo 4 or whatever. When you're playing as Master Chief, he's not really looking at the aliens; he's just shooting them. Mm-hmm. So I think making a separate game was the best way to introduce the engineers and
to the player, right?
Yeah, show them how important they are and stuff like that.
Because the lore people, the people that read books, know about engineers, but the people that just play the games don't know what they are yet.
Though engineers don't really show up that much after this.
Yeah, I mean this is their kind of their highlight so far. But so let's talk about cutscene at the very end. David, do you have that top of mind at all?
The epilogue.
Well, the end cutscene.
Oh, there's cutscene. So
the very end.
The very
there's
end.
Two little cutscenes at the very end, and then we talk. Then there's epilogue, and then.
Yeah, why you're holding up here is because you can't get to the fandom that you stole in one of the previous missions, so they have to come to you because the highway's just been glassed. So they come into you, the team attack and kill the two wraiths. You then run and push Virgil, and Virgil's kind of hesitant; he won't get in, so you kind of have this like a push-pull kind of funny moment.
Is it because it's a Covenant ship?
I don't know what the story is, because clearly he knows. Maybe it is because it's a Covenant ship and he doesn't understand that it's been taken over. I don't know why it wouldn't, but it just seems very hesitant to leave. But anyway, they get it inside and they boost up, and then it's kind of like the team coming together of Romeo being like, he's still hurt because he just took a hammer to the chest and it's punched long, and he kind of looks up and he's really down. He kind of goes, man, we went through all this mission just for that. And he says the alien's important. He's damn good. I wasn't talking about the alien, he meant Veronica. He's very down on Oni. He doesn't like them at all. And then it's kind of like whatever, they send Virgil up to the front of the ship to kind of communicate with the Covenant, so like they kind of, I guess, make them think that it isn't a hijacked ship, and then they kind of seal up the sides, and you get the impression that they're going into orbit as they leave the city. And then there's a great moment where it shows you the city in the background, and you can see all the areas you've been. You can see Uplift Reserve, the crashed the crash lift. You can see the Oni building on fire and stuff like that. It's pretty great.
And you have the moment between Buck and Dare again.
Yeah. Where they talk about how is their relationship going to go, and he says, if you win me this war, ask me that question again. Which there is a follow-up to that in a later book, which is kind of really interesting, which is kind of a cool moment.
Yeah, and that's a little awkward just from a Halo perspective, but I feel like they've touched on it at the beginning. They've touched upon this relationship along the way, so they kind of needed to have that moment at the end, something at the end. Krista, do you kind of like how this wraps up? You know, we'll talk about epilogue here in a second, but do you like how that wraps up there?
It was a hell of a night.
Yeah, I thought that was a weak line. I didn't like that line.
It was very Nathan Fillion, though. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, literally Nathan Fillion who plays Buck. That's the voice actor. He just plays himself this entire time. Which I think that's one of the reasons why he needed a love interest, because it's Nathan Fillion. Yeah, which is kind of a smooth love interests guy. Are always kind of hit and miss with Halo. Some of the books have done it really, really well, and then sometimes it's just kind of like, But like David said, I really like... It does feel like a closing when you're going out of the city and you see it being glassed. You see the artifact being dug up around this city that you were literally just in, and all these kind of set pieces that you got to experience with all the different characters. So I do think the wrap-up cutscene is really, really well done. It's very cool, and then, you know, fade to black, they get out of the city, and then it goes on to the epilogue.
Yeah. So this epilogue is pretty fun because then you see Johnson, right? Like, all right, what's going on? Johnson and Dare hanging out, walking down this long corridor, and they're having a little conversation about, they'd mentioned Lord Hood there, and then Johnson is going to interrogate Virgil, I guess, right? Like,
not really. He does it in a very Johnson way.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, important to know, this is 1 month after you got out.
Yeah, so this is November 15th, I think, according to the timeline.
Which is around the time when Master Chief shows up.
Yeah, a couple days before. Which we probably should have a conversation at some point, like how they got back to Earth quicker. Maybe we'll talk about that at the beginning of Halo 3.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah. But, so, I mean, I think it's a fun cutscene, right? He chucks the lighter at Virgil, and then he ends up lighting a cigar. Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool little payoff there at the end. And then if you played the game on Legendary...
Yeah.
I didn't like this Legendary ending. It was so weird.
It's kind of silly.
It didn't add much.
It's very silly. So it's basically, it's the Prophet of Truth, which with a bunch of Huragok behind him, and then he does an evil laugh.
Yeah, I mean, he goes down, they're digging, right? So he goes down into this hole.
He's in the data center.
Yeah, and they're more or less tying Halo 2, 3, and ODST together by saying, okay, now here's the Prophet. He is on Earth, and he's just going down to maybe inspect the dig, or kind of check out what they're unearthing.
I would think Truth wouldn't even go on Earth, though. I think it makes more sense for him to be on the ship the entire time.
Yeah.
I think it's literally just like a little, hey, Truth was behind all of it, yay!
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And they're just kind of tying everything together. They're doing their best too in this little cutscene because like the dig site, like looking at that, it ends on this just a hole and a Forerunner thing or something under the city, and it's not that interesting to look at. So I don't know. Didn't add a whole lot from my perspective.
It's probably, I hate to rag on it because we kind of ragged on this last mission. Like up until now, we're all like, this is amazing, and the last mission, we're like, eh.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, they can't all be 10 to 10s.
Yeah, it's one of the weaker legendary scenes, though. Usually the legendary scenes are big, like, wow, like the end of a Marvel movie, the end cutscene, the after credit scenes.
The big intrigue drops to like see what happens next, but this game is in a tough spot because it came after Halo 3.
Which means all the tension is kind of gone.
Yeah,
gone at this point because you know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't make sense to tease anything about Halo 4 in this game. Do you know what I mean? So
no, because Halo 4 is so disconnected from everything else.
Exactly.
But even as we're playing it in chronological order, it still does fall a little flat. I feel like. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the intrigue, as you know, the chronological order, we've hinted at, you know, the artifact, the portal. If you are playing in chronological order, you maybe know a little bit about that, but even this doesn't really add that much to it. Just says, okay, there's something down here that they're digging for. So.
Also, the Huragok are not very threatening. Like,
sure.
Also, Truth isn't very threatening either. So, I mean, that's like, I'm threatening you with old man in chair and flyy space aliens that die in one hit.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Cool. Well, I think that does it.
We love ODST.
We do.
We love ODST. This game.
We do.
Just
love
the lore
this game.
implications fall flat a little bit towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you one or two little bits of trivia because there's not a whole lot for this mission, but ones that's kind of interesting. Obviously, throughout the level, the players can see several landmarks in the previous missions, including the Only Alpha Site and Uplift Reserve, which is kind of cool. If the elephant is destroyed, a corpse will fall out bearing Dare's tag. On one closer inspection, however, it reveals it's actually the corpse is the rookie's character model, which is kind of interesting. I thought it was funny. If the player enters the first off-ramp before driving the Warthog, a song rock anthem for saving the world from Halo Combat Evolved will play, which is very random. Yeah, I didn't know that. Johnson's quote, "Don't worry, I know what aliens like," is a tribute to the earlier quote in Halo 2 Level Metropolis, where he says, "Oh, I know what the ladies like." Everyone knows that.
Yep.
It's also a callback to his previous encounters and capture of a Huragok in Halo First Strike, which is a novel worth reading, everybody. It's the only level where the entirety of the squad fights together, technically. Mickey, Dutch, and Romeo use the Phantom to destroy Wraiths, and the Rookie, Buck, and Dare secure Virgil and saving the Covenant. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Because on NMPD HQ, Rookie's not there.
Exactly. The elephant, if the elephant is flipped over using debris in the highway, it will actually instantly teleport back to its original position. I've never noticed this, but it sounds ridiculous.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's like Virgil's like,
ghost. No, just teleports. You can get a ghost into the very end of the firefight sequence by flipping it over. And when the ODST's Phantom arrive, the ODSTs manning the turrets are not actually Dutch and Romeo, but two rookie NPCs, both armed with carbines on their backs. I thought that was kind of interesting. Random piece of trivia. So there you go.
Very nice.
Very nice.
All right, so we're going to do community questions here in a second, so if you guys can pull up Discord and Facebook. But now, so Krista can't join us for the recap mission.
Boo.
So we need to get her rankings right now. We've played 4 games, Krista.
Like
we're over halfway. We've got 3 left.
It's okay, we can never remember what we did.
Yeah, exactly.
I can never remember what my rankings were. They're going to change every single time.
So in the moment, right now, today, after you've finished ODST and the other 3 games, what's number 1? What's your favorite?
Right now it's Halo 2 still.
Okay.
I think that's what I had it at the end of Halo 2. So it's Halo 2, Halo 1, probably Reach, and then ODST.
Okay.
Just because I come at these games less from gameplay and more from just overall impact in the universe and lore stuff. Because that's what I really enjoy about the games. Not saying that I don't like ODST, because I love ODST.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like it's just a side story. Do you know what I mean? It's just...
Well, I mean, one game, we're going to rank 7 games at the very end of this, and one's going to be the worst game. It doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's just one has to be on the bottom. So
yeah. And ODST is so different from all the other games. It's almost an entirely different thing on its own. So it's hard to put kind of something that was supposed to be a DLC next to like Halo 2.
But it still feels like Halo. I mean,
it still feels like Halo.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's do some community questions and we'll get out of here.
Woo!
All right. Discord first, Krista?
Sure. So, Colin has asked, what word or phrase would you use to describe the final mission of Halo 3, ODST, ? So Min says, vehicles beat everything. And then we talked about other things. Ian says, stop glassing me, bro. Dizzy dumper. There's too much traffic on this highway. David says, new MD is up. So that's interesting.
Did I post that in there? It's a bit weird.
You did.
We didn't talk about, there is a lot of there are a lot of cars and there's a lot of debris
and they go splody when
exactly.
So
that's a good point.
Matt says oh crap, fuel rods turn around. Axel says isn't this another Warthog run? Well, yes, but actually no. And that is a meme. It's a very nice meme. Redacted says what's that rumbling? Holy shit, that's a Covenant cruiser coming at the... Oh, never mind, it's not. Okay. But hey, it's pretty cool. So that's all we got on Discord. Facebook?
So real quick, we talked about them glassing the city, but I think they do call it like an excavation beam at some point.
Yes, they do call it an they call it an excavation beam, but at the same time, Buck says, "Oh, they're gonna glass the city, and then they're gonna glass the entire planet." So, I'm not sure if there's actually any difference between an excavation beam and just glassing.
Sure. Yeah.
I think when in the terms of the lore, the glassing doesn't happen from in atmosphere. They do it from outside in space, and the entire fleet shoots its plasma down. So the excavation beam isn't actually like used now. I imagine it does glass, but the glassing actually happens from orbit, and it
Okay.
takes a massive amount of firepower and a fleet and huge amounts of kind of vast quantities of plasma to actually do it, where it superheats the atmosphere. So they don't do it from in atmosphere. Now you can probably
So
glass
these are
a
just
city.
lesser beams.
Yeah, you can probably glass a city using those big excavation beams. Totally. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, that's wiping the city out.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of planet-wide destruction, they only do it. They do it on from orbit, essentially.
That's terrifying.
That is
Yeah.
terrifying. All right. Speaking of terrifying, what's Facebook have to say?
Facebook is quite terrifying.
Facebook says, Lance, rookie's initial monologue. How did I get in this situation? Tyler says, I guess the Covenant really want their engineer back. That's funny. Axel says, infinite rocket launcher beats everything.
Ooh, where's that?
I
Is that
gu-
because you can
just
get the
give you can give it the book, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no infinite skull on this actually. Yeah. Whose Covenant ships are kind of close? Those Covenant ships are kind of close to us now. Although half the mission is sort of a throwback to the Maw when it ends the standoff between the Covenant. Good stuff. That's what Wayne. And Brad says, I wonder if my home insurance covers glassing. Definitely not. Definitely.
Very nice. All right.
There we go, guys.
That is ODST.
That is it. Man, all right. Getting butterflies. Play some Halo 3. It's going to be fun. All right. That'll do it for our debriefing of the Coastal Highway mission from Halo 3 ODST. On the next episode, we'll be recapping Halo 3 ODST, sans Krista, and discussing how it stacks up against previous games. Send us your thoughts. We'd love to read them on the show. podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. Until next time, evolved.
Evolved. That was nice.